Hey everyone, welcome to Being with Cari on the Ultimate Coach podcast. Tonight, I have an incredible guest with me. It is Mr. Ryan the Lion Morris. Thanks for coming, Ryan.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Of
Excited to
course.
be here. Yeah.
Excited to have you here. I'm excited about our conversation tonight.
It's going to be fantastic, huh?
It is. It is. So, we were talking a little bit beforehand, and of course, we talk about being on the show, but we're going to go with a little different. We're going to go with a certain aspect of being. And you said something that you was very present for you at the moment in terms of being. And so I'd love for you to share that again with the audience, and then we'll chat. We'll have a talk.
Yeah. Yeah. So, we were talking about being before, and he said, "Okay, what's on your mind? What's on your mind?" And I was like, "Well, for me, uh, as far as being goes, I've been a lot of things in my life, uh, positive, negative, um, good, bad, whatever you want to call it, label it. I've probably done just about anything that's been out there as far as a way of being." And I said to you, though, getting back to who I really am, I believe that everybody is born with um, an innate personality, this unique individualism, this snowflake energy of how unique and special and amazing that they are, and uh, I've been called Ryan the Lion for a long time, and it represents a lot of different things as far as energy, and it aligns with who I am in a lot of degree, and so that's why I wear it. That's why it's on my label there, Ryan the Lion Morris. Um, but it's really coming back to who you really are, who you truly are deep down inside. And I told you how it feels like um, the where you're born, what family you're involved in, what community, friendships, relationships, experiences add layers upon layers upon layers, and you start to see the world in a certain way. And over the last 5 or 6 years of finding the being movement through Steve Hardison and Nick Smith, um, I've started to deconstruct who I thought I was and go back to really who I am here. There's been a lot of pain and suffering, and a lot of that was probably my own cause suffering, but it hasn't been an easy road all the time because of the habits and the patterns and the beliefs and all those things and learning how to deconstruct it. But that's long story short, getting back to who are you being really? Who is your being? And I heard actually, if I can real quick too, the other day I was listening to Wayne Dyer and thank you. Hijack it. Like, okay, here we go. I'm just gonna add my stuff. I was listening to Wayne Dyer and he talked about squeezing an orange. When you squeeze an orange, what comes out on the inside when it's put under pressure? And orange juice, it matches the inside matches the outside, and that's really what you try to get back to
Mm.
is when you're put under pressure. This hasn't always been the case for me. I'm going to tell on myself here. This has not always been the case for sure. I've done some crappy things. We'll keep it PG 13-ish. I've done some things that are not representative of who I am now. And when you squoze me, orange juice did not come out.
Mm.
And at certain periods of time, sometimes orange juice does not come out. But what I've been able to do is I've been able to learn and to practice and be gentle with myself because there's been patterning, there's been old habits, there's been things that have been layered, and a lot of it was guarded and protected and used for really for my own what I thought called my own protection. And now more than ever, orange juice comes out when you squeeze Ryan the Lion. And I don't know. I was going to say I'm Ryan the Lion, so maybe there's lion juice. I don't know what's inside of me, but what it matches, it more closely matches than it ever has before. What's on
Yeah,
the inside
yeah,
is what expresses on the outside. If you want to be loving, we've heard Steve Hardison and probably just about everyone else that's been on this beautiful podcast talk about this. But what happens is if you want to be loving, go do loving things. Go be love.
right,
Go do those
right.
things, right? And so this has been uh more in the last year and a half. And you and I, you'll talk about some of this stuff in our history and some of the things that we've gone through as we go through this podcast. But it's been about the last year and a half that I pulled way back in my world in a lot of things, and people noticed, pulled way back, and I went through a valley. There's peaks and valleys in life, and I went through a valley, and in that valley, I started to peel back the onion layer of Ryan the Lion Morris, and it wasn't easy. It was a pretty looking yourself in the mirror and getting really honest and taking radical responsibility can be painful. There's a lot of tears. There's a lot of um, regrets of sorts, and then came in the gratitude for uh, my younger self and my previous self doing everything they could think of to keep me safe. I was
Right.
living from a story, though. And so helping people to be able to deconstruct that gently and also be able to tell them in a direct way, there's where the lion comes in, to be able to hold them and in their space, but also be able to shake them a little bit. If you remember Steve Hardison in the TBO NFL, I mean, he literally shook the crap out of Chris Doris. Chris Doris, I think, in real life was kind of pissed. He was like, that was a little excessive. But sometimes you have to have that shake to wake up to who you're being, and that is my goal is to help other people to be able to wake up. That's why Wake Up with Giants TV. That's why the giant wakes up inside of them and realizes they were never small, that they were always giant. And that is my mission. It's waking up myself to my way of being and paying attention to it, being that, changing what's on the inside to come on the outside, and it matches,
Mhm.
and loving people on their journey as they go about their life. So there you go. There's me in a nutshell.
Oh my goodness, Ryan. I love everything you said. There was so much in it, and yet at the same time, it was all about authenticity, but it's about finding your authenticity. It's figuring out what makes that orange juice side of you, right?
Hmm.
Because a lot of times I think there's people out there, I know, I was one of them, had no idea who I was, right?
Yeah. Who
Yeah,
has two thumbs and doesn't know who they are some days? This guy, right?
right.
This gal.
Yeah, you have no idea. You're just like you said, you're just going through the beliefs, the patterns, the motions, the what you've always known.
Hmm.
And I think this has to be hard work because if it was easy, everybody would do it. Like it wouldn't be work, right? It wouldn't be it wouldn't be hard. And that's where some people I think it seems discombobulated of if
Hmm.
I'm doing this thing, and again, this is me speaking from my experience. If I'm doing this thing that is not making me better, but is getting rid of the not great stuff that I'm doing, why shouldn't it be easy? Because we're doing the
Hmm.
good stuff and we're doing the things to be better. And I struggled with that for a while, saying, why is this so hard? And why does this have to be such a process? But it's like the refiner's fire. There has to be, you have to be put through the fire. It has to
And
be
I
unpleasant
agree.
for you
Yeah.
to appreciate that. Go,
That
please.
and that's it. right there. You just nailed it. Is the appreciation, and there's some people that don't believe in God or religion, and that's okay, but
Hmm.
for me, I do, and uh, I believe that those things are there for appreciation. You go through experience. Life is all about experiences, um, and it teaches us things. It helps us to grow, to shift, to adapt, to adjust. And the great part about all of it is we can choose into it. We can choose to put the blinders on and be unaware, unconscious to it all. So it almost sounds like the Matrix, right? Red pill, blue pill, or whatever it was. And
Right.
but it's the truth. And there's a lot of people that they don't want to wake up to it, or maybe they haven't yet because they don't know how. They haven't been shown a different way, and it isn't easy.
Mhm.
Um, but I'm grateful, just like you said, that it's not easy because then I can appreciate the highs and the lows, the dark and the
Mhm.
light, the contrast. I can look back and show appreciation for the really, really, really hard times and gratitude that I made it through those and that there is a way, there is a possibility. That's why on Wake Up with Giants TV, every single week we interview somebody just like you to show us that something is possible. And we had you on, Cari, as well. It was a phenomenal show. If you haven't seen that, go watch that one too, because like Cari is top notch. This woman has uh, been a dear friend for a while, and she has been through some of the hardest, most difficult and painful things, and she opens up to a bunch of that. She's also written in a book about it. Um, and so go watch that. Go learn from people like that because if you think your stuff is bad, there's people that have been through that and that there is a way to move through it. It helps you build belief. And then as you start to do it, you start to get better. Your capacity increases. And this is where the hard then becomes as you start to rewire what's in here and maybe in here
Mhm.
to show love for yourself and grace and to be able to be gentle with yourself as you're going through the process. Find other people that will be right there to support you and to walk next to you. They can't do their work, your work for they can't do it. You got to do your
Right.
work, but they'll be
Right.
right there, encouraging and as you start to build on your capacity, your ability to do that thing gets easier and easier and easier.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
mentioned, if I can, real quick, Cari, I had called Steve Hardison one day. I had a client that was sitting here, and they were talking to me about fear. Like, oh, but that's easy for Steve Hardison. That man doesn't feel fear. And I said, you want to make a bet? And I called Steve Hardison and I said, do you feel fear? He said, of course I do. I'm human.
Right.
But his ability to shift out of it, to shift
Right.
through it, has become, in some cases, probably nanoseconds. Like thought comes in, feel it, shift right out of it. He knows what to do when it comes up. And that's what you learn as you start doing your work. Is you learn and you practice, you gain more experience. You might fall or trip or stumble or go off a side tangent, but you're going to learn from those experiences. And then you can course correct and come back and continue down your journey and learn from it. And so you're being that this is what also Wayne Dyer talked about inside of that video was that at any point in time, you can change. You want orange juice to come out when you squeeze you? Start being orange juice. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
that's it. That's it.
Like I say often, it's really simple, but it's not easy. It's really simple. You just choose to do something different.
Yeah.
But the action of being different than what you've always known, it is the process.
Yeah.
Is the
That's the
process.
rewiring up in here too, because
Yeah.
you have your patterns and your beliefs and the way that you've always done something. And so the brain naturally wants to go back to safe,
What's familiar?
protection, what's
Yep.
what's easy. It wants to be
Mm-hmm.
efficient. This is
Yep.
Nick knowledge. This is nerdy stuff right here. I hope Nick watches this and sees me talking nerdy. He'll love this crap. But yeah, but Nick talks about this stuff all the time and how the brain operates and works. It wants to be efficient. It wants to be easy. So what does it go back to? It goes back to the pattern and it goes back to what's safe, what's been reinforced over and over and over and over again. If you've lived 30, 40, 50, 60 years of being the same way, so they talk about, old dog, new tricks. It's not that they can't. It's just some of that patterning and some of that stuff has been so reinforced over the years that that needs to shift. If you want to get something different, do something different. It's that same thing. And you start changing the neural connections in your mind and your brain starts to speed up and you look clunky, you look kind of dorky, I guess, if you will, doing it at first. You might feel that way at least. There might be a lot of tears and a lot of heartache because it feels so heavy. But the more you do it, the more that the brain goes, oh yeah. And so you start to build into the habit, and then it starts expressing more and more and more naturally. I don't remember if me and you had this conversation at all, and maybe we did at one point in time, but I know I had this conversation with my sister, and she was going through some really hard stuff, and she was trying to shift and having a hard time getting out of that patterning. And I said, it's okay. I said, well, it's not okay because I keep doing this. I said, I know, but it's okay. And here's why. I said, have you ever seen T-ball videos? If you go on YouTube or uh, TikTok's a great place for these videos, by the way, or Instagram Reels. I'm sure they're on there. Go watch little kids playing T-ball. And the coach goes and puts the ball down, gets behind them, gets their arms up and stuff like that. Their helmet's like this, and they get up there, they can't see, and they're swinging the wrong
Right.
direction. They hit it out, down the first base line, and then they tackle the first baseman, or I saw one where the kid dinked it to the pitcher, and the pitcher, this little kid, goes up all cute, goes to scoop it up, and he looks up, and the kid that hit the ball goes running, and Superman tackles him. Like mixing the sports, right? I've seen kids go the wrong direction. You got kids in the outfield spinning around in circles and, picking dandelions and staring at the sun, all those things you do as a kid. But they're bad at baseball. They're not good at t-ball, for sure. They're really, really bad at it. It's funny. I can imagine our creators sitting there just laughing about, oh my gosh, isn't that cute? They're learning how to play baseball or t-ball. Oh my gosh. But that's how it is. You're going to hit the ball and dink it and doink it and do weird things. You're going to run the wrong direction. You throw the bat, almost hit the umpire, run the wrong direction. Who knows?
Yeah.
But you be gentle with yourself because you're learning. Now, pretty soon, the coach starts pitching you the ball and you play coach pitch and then you start connecting with it. When situationally, when this happens, I do this in baseball. If there's a man on first and third and this happens, you know what to do. There's two outs, bottom of the ninth inning. This is what you do. We got to score. We got to do this. You
Right.
know. And pretty soon, over time and experience, you're hitting 90 mile an hour, 100 mile an hour fastballs. You can see a slider coming, a curveball, whatever, because you've practiced it, you've lived it, and now it just expresses naturally from you. And there's not much that you haven't seen. And just like Steve Hardison, you'll still feel fear, but you know how to shift it quicker and quicker and quicker. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
I know
Absolutely.
it does. Sorry, I ask you like you're like, yeah,
It's
of course it does. But
not good, right? Oh my goodness. It makes me think of two things. One is Townsend Wardlaw talks about this a
yeah,
lot. He is he we know we know Townsend. He's a straight shooter. He's not, he can be a teddy bear when he wants to be, but he's generally just straight, just says it
yeah,
how it is. And I remember being on a master call with him master class with him one time, and he was like, why does everybody think I get scared when I want to, I see somebody online and I want to call them up and coach them? Of course I get scared. I get terrified. He's like, but I've learned how to work through that. And
Yeah.
I've done it so long and so often that it is a quick process for me,
Yep.
and
Yeah.
it is the human part of us. It is you look at people, especially with the technology nowadays, and you see them online, and you idolize people who you only see what they show you, and you don't see the real them. And then there's the situations where you just don't see people, right? And you don't see the other side of them. And then when you do see this, how many stories have we heard about people who get shocked when Steve loses his temper? We're like, of course he does. He's human,
Yeah.
right?
Maybe I should have said, hey, does Steve Hardison get mad? Everyone would be like, yep.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I spent time with him in their house one time and he got mad like 7 times in one conversation. And I was just like, yeah, he's a man.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it happens. It's a universal thing. We all struggle with it. We all have issues with it. I don't think any of us are born and get through the first couple decades of our lives not having these patterns that we pick up through society. And so it's not, I mean, as you stated, I have been through horrific trauma throughout my life. And thank you for your acknowledgement. You're so kind. But I by no means have been through the worst there is to go through. And there's people who've been through trauma that is worse than me and have come back from it because they've chosen to. They've made a choice, right? And every single thing that we do is a choice. We're either choosing to do or not to do. And so
Yeah, and I would
I
also
could have,
add to that too, real quick. Just sorry to
yeah,
cut you off.
you're fine.
The Your Everest is your Everest,
Yeah.
and my
Yeah.
Everest is my Everest. And sometimes things that we might see as big or small, I look at what you went through, and I'm like, man, that was horrific. That is unimaginable in my world. And then I don't know, I have anxiety that day and it's like the world is ending and like it's like the
Yeah.
biggest hurdle in the world to climb over, and you look at me and
Yeah.
go like, oh my gosh, that guy is like has anxiety and like I'm glad I don't have that, like so I don't know, that was a dumb example, but still like we, like our things are our things. That's all I wanted to say. It's like it
Yeah.
yeah, and because some people might feel like they're not maybe they won't focus on themselves because they look and they go, well, my life's not like I don't want to focus on myself because it could be way worse or but their things are their things. So I want to make sure that people
Absolutely.
go, you can look at somebody else's life and have gratitude that maybe that hasn't gone on in your world. That's fine. And send them love and appreciation for, the things they had to go through. But then to turn around, still look inward and give yourself grace that the things that you're going through are big for you. And anyway, so continue.
Absolutely.
Sorry.
It's all relative. You don't apologize, my friend. It's all relative. It's based upon your experiences, it's based upon your knowledge, your background, your upbringing, it's all relative. There's people who could have gone through what I went through and not gotten to the rock bottom basement that I got to, but based upon my everything I had known in life, that's just what happened. And that's why I think community is so important and that's why I share my story as many times in as many places as I can because I spoke at a conference in January and told a little bit of my story as part of the topic that Jim and I had been given to speak on together. And there were women that came up to me afterwards that said, I've never known anybody else who's had a childhood like I have. I'm like, yeah, you do. There's a lot of us. It's just not
Yeah.
spoken about. And so, so many people, men and women, feel so alone in their trauma of any type that they've experienced. And I just want to get my story out there and say, you're not alone and you can come back from it and you can create whatever you want to create. And I didn't believe that. I didn't believe that for decades. I think it's Chris Chitty that talks about the different zones, like your impossible zone and I can't think of the name, what they're called, but it's like you're in this zone where things are completely impossible.
Hmm.
And then gradually, as you work through this practice that we talk about and give yourself grace, suddenly you get into this possible zone. And then, and it's an automatic thing as you at first start making those choices to catch yourself or to give yourself grace when those catches are hard. I remember Dave telling me at first, you're going to catch yourself in something, and then 30 seconds later, you're going to have to catch yourself again. And then you're going to have to catch yourself again 10 seconds later. And I was like, but I'm busy. And he's like, I don't care. It's what you have to do. And it is.
Yeah.
And it is. But I have created a life that 2 years ago I couldn't have imagined was possible because I was so stuck in this is what all my life is. And it's a choice. It's a choice. And
I've
I
watched
want
that
to,
journey too, by the way, and
yeah, you have.
I'm uh there's not enough Kleenexes that I have here. If I start down that road, this might end sooner than later. So I'll, I just uh it's been incredible to watch because in real time, real life experience, watching you, I've been able to watch a model of somebody that's gone through some of the hardest things that could be imaginable, at least in my view, and stuck in some patterning and some beliefs and some things, and then learning what to do when certain things come up inside of you, and then being determined, absolutely determined to shift it. Some days it didn't make that any easier. It was discipline over desire in a lot of scenarios. Me and you have shared a lot of conversation and a lot of messages and highs and lows throughout all of that. And even the other day, you sent me a message, and I'm not going to talk too much about it, but you sent me a message, and you were in this space of some grief came up, and that's okay. Like there's parts in here where you start off maybe unaware of how you've been living your life, or maybe not wanting to be aware. Then we become aware of what's going on in our world. And then inside of that, and as you navigate, there can be the grief that comes in. You and I have talked about if I would have known sooner, I could have lived differently. All these years of being stuck in this misery. I call
Right.
it a lot worse things. And as you learn how to navigate the grief, you can accept it. It doesn't mean that you go, hey, you know what? I resign to this. It means that that is what it was. It sucked. It was hard. It was terrible. There's some people that in that I don't know if there's forgiveness. I'm trying to find it in my soul for them. I'm glad I don't have to make that decision, and I'm working on it, that part of me, because I get kind of the lion energy in that, the mama bear energy of protecting and you know, uh, we call it the muffin man, is this I don't know, a little bit of a vindictive side of me that just wants to protect and lash out for my friends and family, the people that I love, want to protect them. But then as you start to accept that that is what it is and it was what it was, but now guess what? Just like you said, those choices, you have choices, you have options. Then you start making decisions, making that determination. This is what I'm doing. This is where I'm going. And as you do that, you start to have gratitude for your experiences. I don't know that you could. We've had some calls where you're like, how the freak could you say you're thankful for those experiences? It might have included some bad language, in some of those, you know,
Maybe one or two. Yeah,
maybe a little bit. There's no proof. Nobody will ever
maybe.
know.
No,
Yeah.
no.
Um, and I've said them too. I've been mad. I've been pissed off. Like how could that happen to me? Who is this God that would allow this stuff? You blame other people and all these other things. And there's this rage that can come up and all this sorrow and stuff that can happen. But then something shifts as you start to do your work and you start to express gratitude for those versions of you that then led you to this moment, to lead us to right here. Carry all of our decisions, all of our life's experience have led us to right now. And you know how much
Yeah.
gratitude I have for right now? to be able to be friends with Cari, one of the greatest giants I've ever met in my entire life. Somebody that has taught me so many lessons and is there even when I don't respond in a quick manner. This gal is always quick to come back and to pour love into my world, even if her world is on fire or feels like it's on fire. And so then you start, as you have that gratitude, then you start to shift into empowerment, possibility, like you talked about, being able to look and go, ah, there's the world is my oyster kind of a thing. I don't even know what that means or why that's even a saying, but it's wild.
Sounds good. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have no idea either, but it means you could choose anything. And the
Mhm.
reality is that's always been an option. You just start to see the world differently. And then you can shift and shift and shift. There could be some uncertainty, some fear behind that, right? Of, oh, okay, that happened. Now what? Some of the fear that I talked about with Steve Artison could come up. Some of the self-doubt and the sabotage and all those things. That's our judge self. That's usually this guy trying to keep us safe, our ego.
Yeah.
Elijah, the man formerly known as Steve Bacon, who's one of my great friends in life, he absolutely killed his ego. He destroyed his ego. The man shifted his entire name to get rid of what was attached to the name Steve Bacon. And I still joke about it with him because he would come on his podcasts and in his little TED Talks and be like, "It's your boy Steve Bacon," and I'll see him, and I got to see him down in Arizona a couple weeks ago and give him a hug, and I said that to him as I pulled in. I just gave him a hug, and but we talked about that, letting go of the ego and shifting into possibility, because then anything is possible inside of the uncertainty. And he plays inside of that uncertainty, but what he's learned is he's certain inside of the uncertainty because he knows who Elijah is. He knows who Cari is. He knows who Ryan is. And so then in comes trust, faith, and belief, all those things as you step forward. Anyway, I probably digress. I don't know. Probably not, but
I I love Ryan, I love talking to you because we go off on these deep
yeah.
tangents at times. And there's actually something as you were speaking the last couple of minutes that kept coming up to me that I feel like is important to bring up. I think there's some people out there that this may be a deterrent for them or a difficult thing for them if they're going through this process, especially if they're in like the beginning, I don't know, year or two of the process, which is, for me, about where it started. And that is you're doing all these wonderful things and it's positive and you're trying to create all of these positive things and you have your current tribe that doesn't see what you're doing or they see what you're doing as they don't like it or they don't agree with it or they don't accept it and maybe some of them don't accept you anymore. And that is a really, really hard deterrent. I know I had to separate myself from a lot of my family members who can't see what I'm doing as improving the things about myself that I haven't liked. And for whatever reason, it's because they have their beliefs, their patterns, their thoughts, their upbringing. And I think a lot of people that deters them because they feel like they're going to be alone, or they feel like, well, if my family or my friends don't agree with it, maybe it's not the right thing. And I love how you're talking about going in and finding what's right for you, no matter what you've been through. because nobody experiences the same two things. Somebody who's been through the same experiences as me did not have the same experiences that I did. And that's why finding a tribe that supports you and uplifts you and has unconditional love for you. And that unconditional love isn't always soft and squishy and, oh, you're beautiful and amazing and you're wonderful. Sometimes it's like you said, being hard, holding them in their truth and telling them straight out. And
100%. I was
it's
laughing, like it's thinking in my mind as you're talking about that. I got a squishy hug from Elijah, but I've been in his presence when it's not so squishy, and it was exactly what I needed. I've sat in front of some amazing giants that you would know in this community that looked me dead, I almost said dead ass, right in the eyeballs. I might get a little bit emotional, so I gotta blow my nose for a second. Sanika is one of those giants. Talked about radical responsibility. Square up. I mean, that dude's fists are like the size of my head, and it was a just a um and then he, backs off and you know, talks you through it after, you get the 1-2 punch to the throat or the face. But that was exactly what I needed. And community like that um is definitely something that's super valuable. You have some support and some guidance and somebody that can give you a perspective. You don't always have the yes man that's just going to go along with you and or even family. Family can be the hardest thing because they project all of their fears and worries and doubts and all of their stuff, and then can keep you playing small. And friends, real friends, true loving friends can give you that punch to the jugular and still scoop you up, as it hits and say, but it's okay. I'm right here. I'm right there to help you and to help you see how really giant you are, how really massive and how incredible, how unique, how miraculous, all those adjectives. Um, it's a shift in belief as you start being and as you start hanging around a community like this. It's new. It can be really exciting too, but it also could be one of the scariest and uh, it can also internally feel like a lonely road. Um, Townsend Wardlaw, he talked about, going through and weeding your garden, plucking out the things that no longer serve you. That can be painful, and here's why, is because you're probably judging yourself harder than you would ever judge anyone else. In fact, it probably, if you said the things to you out loud to another person, you'd be embarrassed the way that you were treating that person. And I know, Cari, you've done it. I know I've done it to myself. We've both done it. I've heard you do it, and you've probably heard me do it too. It
Mhm.
happens. That happens. Um, but as you can start pulling out what's no longer serving you, it gets easier and easier. And you look back behind you, and there's less of the weeds. Townsend also talks about how the nature of belief, just believing in like something he just talks about like God, how does he put it? I'm gonna botch this so bad. I'm sorry, Townsend. But you start believing a certain thing, And then that becomes your new standard. Then you start believing something else, and it could not be true. And Steve Hartson talks about how two things can be true at the same time. What
Yeah.
you used to think was true is going to shift to what you now believe is true, and what you now believe is true will shift to what you now believe is true, to what you now believe is true. Um, and a community like the ultimate coach group, people that are out there being in the world, that are learning, they're playing t-ball. Um, there's people in there that are playing Major League Baseball. That these people have been through so much stuff, all the way down to the kid that's doinking it to the pitcher and tackling the first baseman and running in circles. And we just smile and love them because we were there too once. And we might, even though we think we might be playing Major League Baseball, our creators, is probably sitting up there looking at us and going, that's so cute that they think that they're doing this. But we learn as a community, and the support, the benefits that happen inside of something like this. It's infinitely better than trying to go at it on your own. And I've been so grateful for so many people. I could go through a list of tons of them in this community that have either directly affected my life or through a ripple absolutely shifted my world because they touched somebody like you, who touched somebody like Townsend Wardlaw, who then touched my world. And so grateful for this community of beautiful human beings. It's an incredible group to be a part of and to love and to watch and to witness as they go do their work and they go express into the world and watch the orange juice flow.
And Ryan, you are one of those people. You truly are such an amazing example of true unconditional love
Thank you.
for everyone. You have been such an example to me. And I'll give you an example of what a tribe does. I was going through before I was part of the group, before I knew anything about coaching, like being a coach or really anything about it. Um, I had my friend Wendy from Utah, and I had my friend Eric that I'd known for 25 years at that point. And then Eric introduced me to Dave, who I started coaching with. And so I knew these three people, and that was my entire support group. That's all I had. And Dave kept talking about this book and about this guy named Steve, and he kept like saying all this stuff about being, and I would just be like, come on, we're working on my trauma. Like, I don't care about any of that stuff, right? I don't care about that guy. I don't care about that
Who's
way of
this
like
Steve
just
guy?
focus on my trauma, right? And he just kept talking about how wonderful this group was on Facebook and how all these coaches and I'm like, wow. And I remember there was suddenly this shift in me where I was like, I wonder what that's about. And I got on Facebook to join that group. And for 2 months, I could not anonymously click a button that said join. I couldn't do it. And I couldn't tell you why. To this day, I couldn't tell you why. I mean, I could, but I couldn't do it. Why have you not pulled me into this? Like, we've been a year. Why am I? And he's like, I thought you joined a group like 6 months ago. Are you not in the group? I'm like, no, I'm not in the group. I don't care about the group. I don't care about anything in the group. I don't. He's like, why don't you join? I'm like, I can't. Why? I don't know. So he pulled me right in and he brought me right into the group and he made, this little post. This is my friend. Hey, but he made me make an agreement with him that the only way he would do it is if I don't know if I've told you this
I
story
don't know if
before.
we have either. This is
The only
exciting.
way that he would the only way he would bring me into this group is if anybody who reached out in the post and said, "Welcome to the group," I would request a connection call with them. And I didn't even know what a connection call was. And I was like, "What is this?" And he's like, "It's just a thing we do. You have to promise to do that with every person who says welcome." And I said, "I couldn't click a button, Dave. I'm not going to just start talking to people." He said, "I'm not bringing you in then." And so I negotiated with him. We got him down to two. I got him down to two people. He's like, "I don't care which two, just two people." And I reached out to a bunch of people, and that changed my life. This community changed my life. I couldn't click a button to be in an anonymous Facebook group of, at the time, I think there was like 9,000 members. And now, 2.5 years later, here I am doing a podcast for them and speaking on stage and writing in the book and doing, speaking. I'm going to be having spoken at 50 different events or things by the end of this year. And it's all because the people in this group supported me and loved me and saw who I was, even when I couldn't see who I was. And when my tribe outside of here started to say, We don't like where you're going," you guys wrapped your arms around me and said, "We got you. We got you." And so I really want to encourage anyone out there who's listening or who's watching this, find a tribe, find a group of people, join the Ultimate Coach Facebook group. It's a Facebook group, but man, the people in it are real and they're
And
authentic.
you're gonna get what you like when you go into that group, what you put in, you'll get out. And actually, that's probably not even true. What you put in, you're gonna get out probably 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times back.
Sure.
But engage into that group. Go in there and
Yeah.
be loving, be serving, be kind, be those things, and watch what happens in return as you
Yeah.
go in and make those connections and start loving on people and supporting people. Oof. If
Yeah.
there's one thing I know about that group is that reciprocation is again 10 times, 100 times, 1,000
It is.
times fold. Um, and there's some people in there that in day-to-day regular life, um, it would be much harder to come across the caliber of people. You might skip past them, um, versus in that group they're concentrated. I don't know why everything's all about orange juice today, but they're concentrated orange juice up in that group.
Oh my gosh, Ryan.
Huh.
They they are. I mean, there's so much to be involved in that group. Um, and 3 months after after Dave finally pulled me in there, I was asked to be on Team Tuck, which required me to do things live in the production of the book readings. And then I was asked to do these live interviews with previous guests of the podcast. And that has warped into this. And I they were bad. When I started, they were bad because I couldn't talk to anybody. I couldn't even look at the camera. But I interviewed people who were so gracious and so kind, and we're just like, we're gonna meet her where she's at. And I don't know where I'm at. I don't know. I don't- Had no clue who I was or what I was doing. And yeah, the and there's conferences, there's the ultimate experiences. There's here and they're around the world. And like you said, the caliber of people that you come across at those, phenomenal. Just phenomenal.
Will take time to slow down and have a conversation with you. And if they can't at that current moment, they'll book a call. They'll
Yep.
I promise you, this is a group of serving, loving, kind human beings. Um, and Cari, we might look back at this in 2 or 3 years ago. That was bad. Like, what the heck did we do? But it's because we evolve, right? We shift, we grow, we adapt. I look back at the first episodes of Wake Up with Giants TV, and I'm like, yeah, I was in this exact same room, except there was nothing in here. and I had a bed sheet that was like hanging down, and you could kind of see through it to see the shelving behind me, and the lighting was horrible. And I don't have a green screen or anything up at the moment, but it was bad. I stumbled all over my words. I didn't have any of this knowledge and the skills and abilities that I do now, and I'm still building upon that. There's some episodes every now and again still that I'm like, yeah, that wasn't my best performance ever, like I didn't show up like I thought I would there, but you know,
Right.
well, that's what we're there for, is just for experience and learning and growth and but I'm telling you what, the people that are in that group are the best humans that are on the planet, that are also there trying to turn around and um, build belief in other people that they can also shift their world, and you can be whatever you want to be. You can do whatever
Well,
you want
and
to do.
the tribe of giants is the same thing and does the same thing, you know?
And I appreciate you saying that.
Of
The only
course.
difference in the tribe of giants is that the being group didn't exist. So,
Mhm.
in that essence, Nick Smith wrote The Giants and the Smalls. It's this book, The Giants and the Smalls. The giant in this book, and before Steve wrote, or Amy wrote, and the Ultimate Coach, um, Nick had written this book about Steve Hardison. He was Nick's giant, and Steve put him on his shoulders, just like people will do in this group. They'll put you on on their shoulders, and they'll stand up. I took my Shih Tzu. My Shih Tzu is just this little tiny thing. And when we first got her, I picked her up and lifted her up, and I was cooking dinner or something like that, and I held her in my arms, and her eyeballs, I mean, Shih Tzu's eyeballs are pretty big anyway, but they've got bigger. Like, her view of the world, she's like, "Holy crap, what is up here? Like, what is this world that I've been missing? Like, look at the abundance, like food's everywhere because it's on the top of the tables, and she can't see on the top of the tables, right? It's a little tiny dog." That's how I imagine, and how what I know is true, is a giant will pick you up, they'll put you on their shoulder, hold you, and they'll stand up, and you see a whole new perspective of what's possible. They build belief and possibility and show you, and then they can also guide you and teach you, because they've been down a journey and a road, and just save you time, save you energy, save you some heartbreak and some heartache. Um, and even though there might be experiences, life doesn't stop happening. There's still crap that hits the fan every now and again.
Right. Right.
That can be some really tough stuff, but they'll be right there, and they'll help you as you're going through it, and you'll learn the tools to where you can shift, whether it's heartache or anger or fear, or if you think that, you don't understand, happiness, you're chasing happiness, it's all a construct, and they'll teach you about that. And so that's it. Just the Tribe of Giants just was something that, on Facebook, that we started because there was nothing. And then simultaneously, as we went down the road, then the Ultimate Coach group came along, and so grateful to be a part of both of those groups. And there's some that are different in both groups, and some are co-members of all of them. And it doesn't matter, because to me, it's all it's all being a giant. It's all being.
Right.
It's the same thing. It is about the same concept that Steve Hardison talks about.
Hmm.
So anyway, so I'm grateful for the group, because if it wasn't for the group, if it wasn't for a person like uh, Dave Orton, who wouldn't let you into the group till you talked to a couple people and did those hard things,
Hmm.
then you and our path wouldn't have crossed. If it wasn't for
Right.
Nick Smith getting put on the shoulders of Steve Hardison, and this is where I'm going to get emotional. Okay, here, grab some Kleenexes. We got our Kleenex boxes, right? Look at hers. Mine is a pear box Kleenex,
It's a Green Bay
and hers is
Packers
a
couch.
Packers couch.
I dedicate this to Tony Schmaltz. I'll buy you one.
Yeah, love you, Tony. Schmaltzy's one of my favorite human beings, but
Schmaltzy. Keep going.
if those experiences, if Nick wouldn't have been standing in a welfare line, feeling the lowest that he's ever felt in his entire life, um, losing his house, going through bankruptcy, not being able to provide for his kids, standing in a welfare line and getting a phone call from a man named Steve Hardison. And Steve Hardison, the one thing that Nick Smith remembers, Nick said, because he was curious of what this life coach could do, he said, "Can you?" And before Nick could finish the sentence, Steve Hardison said, "Yes." And Nick said, "Well, how can you say yes? You don't even know what I'm going to say." And he says, "There's nothing that's bigger than me. There's nothing that I can't figure out. It's all figure outable." And that shifted everything. That was the catalyst for Nick to wake up to his way of living and his way of being, the possibility thinking. It didn't take away all of his fears, it didn't instantly fix all of his problems. But because of that, it led to Nick Smith at an RV dealership and Ryan Morris in his life and all of his decisions and choices. They collide. I said, "Hey, Nick, let's be business partners." He said, "No." I wanted to give him the middle finger. And a few months later, we decided that, hey, yeah, we're going to be business partners. And that morphed into a tribe of giants because we needed a way to share Steve Hardison's message. And COVID shut down everything. So podcasting it was, and a Facebook community. And then that led into all of the other things. And then somebody named Cari joins the tribe of giants, and Ryan Morris posts a post, something along those lines, and throws out a
Yep.
contest
Yep.
to connect to create a miracle. And you know what the miracle was, Cari?
Tell me.
It was you. You're the miracle. It's to help you to remember who you are and that it was possible. And I'm so grateful for the miracles in my life because they've helped me remember I'm the miracle. And they continue to help me every single day. And so yeah, if all of that, like we have been through our experiences, we wouldn't be here. So I'm so grateful for those things. I'm so grateful that Steve Hardison would just go around talking to everybody about TBOLIT NFL, wake them up to possibilities because um, everything he did allowed for the connection to happen between me and Nick Smith. There are no coincidences. So I'm grateful for you reaching out to invite me on this show because it's I at first I was like, well, why me? Some of the old patterning, right? Some of the old beliefs come up, and that has been a struggle for me is receiving. Well, what about Nick Smith, or what about Tony Schmaltz? What about this guy? What about that girl? What about, some amazing giants? And then I'm like, well, but Ryan the Lion has some things to share too. And
It
somebody
does.
out there is going to connect with me and you as we have a conversation today. And so I do it scared. I do it anyway because that's who I be. Loving kindness.
Or my friend.
Well,
And have got to, before we end, I have got to give a shout out to Dominic London and Beth Powell, because if it was not for those two, you and I would have never met in person.
yeah,
And that was miracles. That whole situation, they had no idea the miracles that they were creating when they gave and they served the way that they did.
I still don't know if they would fully know. Like I couldn't convey enough gratitude. Uh, and anyone else along that journey, um, because they're all part of that story. They're all part of that timeline.
You and I could name
Yeah,
person after person after person that we know who have been miracles for us, that have been miracles to us, and that we've been able to watch be miracles themselves. And
yeah,
that's all because we and they are all being and striving to be our authentic self, and which is just, it comes down to love.
yeah. It's the most beautiful thing in the world.
It is. Ryan, thank you for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Of course.
And
I'm
thanks for
honored.
everyone that's watching this. For you that's at home that catches this in a day, a week, a month, a year. Um, I see you. This group sees you. They love you, and they'll continue to love you until you can see the giant that's in you. And then you get to go out and ripple that out into the world and do the same for somebody else. And that ripple continues to grow and get bigger and bigger and bigger. And more people are impacted by your way of being. So thank you for doing your work. Thank you for being here. Thank you for spending a little bit of time with me and Cari. I love you.
Ryan, we're going to put all the information of Tribe of Giants, your book, Wake Up with Giants, the Sumagun Latte. What's the name of the program?
Yeah, it's our Sum Gigante. It's I am giant
Gigante
in Latin. Yep.
in
And
Latin. Love it.
it's our 12 it's our 12 journeys coaching, and it just goes through some bullet points, 12 of them specifically of this is the different phases that you can go through, and they're not chronological order. They're just things that can happen, and then you can pay attention to where you are, and then it helps you to just be able to shift. That's it. We're just here to help you in your Giants journey, and there's so many amazing coaches inside of this group as well. Find one or two or three or four. I have hundreds.
Right. Right.
Literally.
Hmm.
Literally, I could tap into I could probably tap into a couple hundred easy in this group where they take 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes out of their day, respectfully. Um, and that will help you as you're navigating um, whatever you're going through. And I promise you it's worth every penny, whatever they charge. And if you can't afford whatever they're doing at the current moment, then shift and grow and create it. Go figure that out. And you might have to step along as you go, but there's just so many incredible people in this community of all different sorts, of all different backgrounds, and they're here to love you and guide you and to play t-ball with you.
True. So anybody who's watching, anybody who's listening, I will have all that information of ways that you can contact Ryan and or Nick and the TUC group. Obviously that information is here on the podcast and in the all of the postings, but we'll get you guys connected with Ryan and Nick too if you would like to. Everything there is out there. So
Yeah, love to help if we can, even if it's just to have a conversation. You just reach out.
Ryan, thank you. Thank you for
Yep,
taking the time to be on the show today and share a piece of the Ryan the Lion Morris that I know and that I am blessed and grateful to know and have been blessed by.
right back at you.
And I'm
I love
grateful
you.
that grateful that so many other people can hear your voice too.
Perfect.
Or anything else you would like to say before we close?
No, I just heart's full of gratitude and love, and that's exactly what I was hoping for. Sitting down and I wouldn't expect anything less. Sitting across from Cari and having just a conversation, because that's how our conversations are. and that's who I am. So thank you.
Who we love. That's why we love you, friend. Everyone, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Again, get in touch with Ryan, get in touch with Nick. We all we all are giants, and that giant is inside of us. And it's just finding it, and you can do it. And there's a tribe of people that will help you do that. So reach out to me, reach out to any of us. Love you, Ryan.
Love you too.
Love you all.